These are members of Britain's elite RAF Air Defence Force. They're celebrating VE Day in Canada, but they're taking part in an aerial war game, said to be the nearest you can get to real combat in peacetime. Those with aspirations to become the RAF's top guns are facing one of the toughest flying tests of their lives.
When you take 4 aircraft into a much bigger formation of bombers, where you avoid their fighter escort and get stuck into them and start doing the job that you were trained to do, which is to shoot down aircraft, that's the buzz.
It's an adrenaline burst. You know for real, he'd be a smoking piece of wreckage and you'd be coming home for tea and medals.
The thing which crowns every day is going flying. Even bad sorties in their own way are far more rewarding than a couple of hours sat behind a desk.
Best bit about it is being on a nice day, turning upside down, sticking your tongue out at the world.
The rare occasions when we actually get into close visual combat and you're flying the aircraft to its limits, that is the greatest experience, and that's what all pilots live for.
RAF Coningsby, Eastern England, the home of 29 Squadron, part of NATO's air defences. Based here are 11 of the 100 Tornado F-3 supersonic fighters which Britain provides for the defence of Europe. Around 200 pilots, navigators and ground crew, with a history dating back to 1915.
Magpie 1, clear takeoff, wind 04012.
8 Tornadoes are being sent to northwestern Canada for a fortnight of war games known as Maple Flag. They will be taking on the might of the air forces of the United States, Canada and Germany. 29 Squadron are flying these fighters to the other side of the Earth, 6,000 miles. Leading the aerial convoy is a VC-10 tanker. To travel vast distances, fighters need to refuel in the air. At 20,000 feet, an operation made simple, but in reality fraught with potential dangers.
With the system of refuelling that the Royal Air Force operates, which is essentially a hose and a basket which flies in the sky, you can have a few problems with the baskets not coming out or the baskets not flying properly. Essentially, when you get into bad weather, turbulence, the basket goes up and down quite a lot, and it can get very, very difficult to actually make contact with the basket, and it really does get quite hairy at times.
125 is closing up slowly.
First time you pitch up behind a tanker, it's such a big aeroplane, you're in close formation and you're tanking and you sit there thinking, bloody hell, this is amazing. I know the young pilots are there almost hyperventilating, sweating away, trying to get the probe into the basket and not do any damage.
Well, it's closing up nicely, good approach. Approaching the basket, contact. Jim. Green nose, fuel full.
It's something that you have to do, and you practice it quite a lot, and it just becomes second nature.
And both steady contact, 25 and 1 fuel drill is good, both sides. Watch out, Jerry, sir.
Not only the Tornadoes must refuel, the tanker itself must fill up from a second VC-10.
Under pressure.
the one thing that we do notice a great deal is the extreme of buffet when you get into the jet wash of the tanking aircraft, of the tanker aircraft. Once we've joined with the other tanker, you just have to anticipate a lot more than maybe you would a small fighter, which is quite responsive in its inputs, control inputs. On this aeroplane, you have to be a little bit more anticipating and get the power on early, take the power off early, all that sort of thing.
The pilots have run out of hours, not fuel. Too long in the air. The RAF has a base here where they can rest overnight. The weather is a grim reminder of what flying in Canada will be like. This is an air warfare range. 400 square miles of closed territory and airspace. This is where the NATO nations come to play their most demanding war games, in secret and out of sight usually. Canada permits the lowest supersonic flying in the Western world, over terrain which mirrors Britain and much of Europe. Cold Lake is the home of Maple Flag. Gathered at this airbase are almost 100 fighters and bombers from 4 different air forces. The RAF Tornadoes are making their first ever appearance in this theatre of combat. Every morning and every afternoon for 10 days, these war machines will try and outsmart and outmaneuver each other in the hope that their squadron or battle group will come out on top. The competition will be fierce. Many of the Canadian and American pilots are on pass-fail assessments. Their jobs are on the line. But the RAF aircrew are already fully trained and tested air defenders. It's their squadron's honour which is at stake.
Squadrons are the RAF's equivalent of the Army's regimental system, and they have a very strong sense of identity and a very strong wish not to either be shown as poor performers in front of other squadrons, but also to show other squadrons how good they really are and to be seen to be the best.
The Tornado F-3 supersonic fighter is capable of speeds of Mach 2, 1,500 miles an hour. It takes 2 to fly these jets, a pilot and a navigator. Backseaters, the front-seaters call them, because the term navigator is a misnomer.
Maybe 5% of our job is about navigation. Basically, we're a tactician, a weapons system operator. We work the radar, that's our primary job. We build the pilot's SA, his situational awareness. So the navigator is part of a team who keeps the aircraft alive and gets the weapons off in a decent manner.
The backseater's job is to get you in there and get you in a position to get the missiles off. The front seater's job is to obviously deliver the aircraft to that point, but also fight the aircraft out when required. If nothing else, 2 pairs of eyes far better than one. You can't be looking in at, the whole sky at any one time, so the more people you got in there, the better.
Although Tornado pilots and navigators form close fighting units in the air, there's always a question mark about the real ambition of backseaters. Did they all once want to be in the driving seats?
Yeah, I did when I was younger. I think now, realistically, I don't particularly want to drive. I mean, flying civilian-wise is a different matter, but certainly not on the military side. I enjoy the job of being a nav.
Even the squadron wing commander is a backseater who once wanted to be up front.
I initially applied for pilot navigator training at Biggin Hill, going through the selection process. They said, well, you could be a pilot, you have the aptitude to be a pilot, but you have a much higher aptitude to be a navigator. And at the time, we were very heavily recruiting navigators to fly in the F4 Phantom, in the ground attack role, and the Buccaneer. So there's an awful lot of what the recruiting sergeant needs goes into what you actually get selected for in the long run.
I applied to be a pilot. My second choice was navigator. I passed my medical and my aptitude for pilot. However, at the time, I like to think it was because they weren't recruiting that many pilots at the time, which is true to a certain degree. But obviously I wasn't the top cream of that level, and they obviously took the best people to go for the pilot training at that stage.
I'm happy being a navigator. I had my shot at being a pilot when I was 16. I went to do the initial tests, and apparently I was so uncoordinated and sad that I'd never make it as a pilot. I can't even ride a bike in a straight line, so let alone be a pilot.
There's a lot of navigators around who are glad that they are very good navigators rather than mediocre pilots, and I suspect I would have fallen into the latter category.
Any navigator who says he doesn't want to be a pilot is lying. All of my friends going through nav training all wanted to be pilots, so it's in some ways it is a bit second best, but as I say, in the actual fast jet world it makes no difference to me whatsoever. There's enough for both of you to do. The only thing is you haven't got full control over the airplane. Obviously your interface between the actual aircraft is through the pilot and through his headphones.
Okay, come starboard, mate, come starboard. Okay, yeah, Fox 1. Fox 1. Good night. Fox 1. Okay. Right, done.